Hi, and welcome to our very first webinar between Muhimbi and PSPDFKit. We've been practicing this a little bit, so if you experience any technical difficulties while we're doing this, please bear with us. We're super excited to welcome Muhimbi to the PSPDFKit family. By combining our technologies, we're able to begin to broaden who can build innovative document solutions on our platform, from developers to a new group of builders who prefer easy to use low-code and no-code tools. The merging of our solutions will allow companies like yours to continue to digitize the entire document lifecycle and get us closer to our goal of obsoleting paper. We're super glad to have you. Thank you for joining today. Hopefully you'll learn a little bit more about what we are building together. And with that, I'll hand it off to Jeroen.
Thanks, Jonathan, and hello, everyone. So we're very excited by the new opportunities provided by PSPDFKit's technology and platforms. They've been on our radar for years, as we are both market leaders in the PDF industry. Both Muhimbi and PSPDFKit share a common mindset, which is to provide great PDF products to the SharePoint and Office 365 market with unmatched support and best-in-class developer and user experience. The benefits of our shared knowledge and technology is already paying off. I'm excited to demonstrate the first product that we will be making available, a full-featured web-based PDF viewer and editor that integrates seamlessly with SharePoint and other Office 365 technologies, including OneDrive and Teams. It does not require the deployment of any Windows or Mac desktop software. So for well over a decade, we've been working with our customers to add new features to our popular PDF conversion software. However, there's a common request that we've never been able to address until now. Traditional desktop PDF readers are a dime a dozen, and they generally work well enough. However, to say that they integrate well with SharePoint is an understatement. Saving files is unintuitive to the average user. There's little integration with SharePoint data sources and lists, and also automation via workflow platforms such as Power Automate is non-existent. So enough talk. Let me show how this works. And please bear with me while I switch around to my different application. Here we go. So for first demo, we're going to generate a meeting pack. This is a very common requirement for our customers. And quite often, there's a meeting coming up and a Word, an Excel, and a PowerPoint file need to be distributed to all the attendees. But people use tablets, phones, Mac laptops, Windows laptops, and Office documents. It looks slightly different on all of them and rarely really good. And it's difficult to consume. So by actually creating one big PDF-based pack, it's much easier to consume this and annotate this on a whole range of devices. So how are we going to do that? So we have now this great PDF viewer and editor, but it works with PDF files. And if you look here in our document library, you can see that we have an MS Word file. So this is a standard SharePoint online site, out of the box with only one difference, which is that the new PDF viewer editor is installed on it and the PDF converter as well. So let's take the option to convert this to PDF. And it takes the standard MS Word file, and it doesn't matter how complex the rendering is or how big the document is, we will convert it with perfect fidelity. So while we go through this process, it converts the file and writes it back to the same folder in SharePoint. And from there onwards, we can open it in our new editor. So now we see here the PDF version. So let's click on that. And rather than opening your native PDF viewer or SharePoint's native PDF viewer, we now open our PDF viewer and editor. And it looks just like a PDF file, right? But you get some extra stuff here at the top to edit and annotate and do all kinds of fancy things. So let's turn this into a meeting pack. And the first thing we see here, there's actually some very sensitive information that we do not want to get out during the meeting. So we select the text here and we use the option to automatically apply a redaction. So at that point, what it does, it doesn't just put a black square on it. It actually removes the information, it scrubs it out, so someone who has some kind of fancy PDF tool can't actually get it out of it. So now we have this information removed and we can move on. But it's not just this MS Word based agenda, right? We want a presentation as well. So we have the option to import a document, and we say, let's get a presentation in. So we can change this around, and when we now save, it imports the entire presentation. But we want to make some changes to it. For example, we want this slide to go first. And we're still in our browser. We don't have any desktop software installed. This is all native, nothing to deploy. And this slide here as well is actually not final yet. So let's just get rid of that completely. So now we have the agenda, we have a presentation, and we need some Excel sheet with some financials in it. So let's import that as well. Look at the financial report, and we import everything. So if we now look at the full content of the file, and we go to the bottom, we see that everything is in there, the presentation, the MS Word file, and the Excel sheet. But I now realize that this financial report, the revenue, that's not the final figure. So we can actually annotate everything. So we can add lines and everything, but let's put some text in there. And we say financials, not final. So anyone who gets this PDF won't be surprised. There's a little note here, let's stick it in there. And then we actually can see what's there. Now, we have all this file completely ready, but it's a board pack, so that's quite sensitive information. So let's add some text. And we have this really user-friendly tool. No one needs training for that. Anyone who knows how to use a browser or MS Word is familiar with this in no time. So let's put it in red so no one can forget it. And a big font, like 24. And then we stick on this confidential. There we go. So there's no mistake. We can move it around a bit. But also, this is an important document, and we want to make sure that it's been endorsed by the CEO. So let's add that to it. So we do put in our signature. We can even specify a cool font to make it look fancy, right? And we say done. And now it's there. But this by itself means nothing. Anyone can stick some fake text in a document. It's not really true, right? So to make sure that this document is final and unchanged after the point of saving, there's the option to sign this. And what this does behind the scenes, it looks at all the content of the document and generates a magic number based on that. And it saves that in an encrypted way with the PDF. Now, when the PDF is closed and someone changes the content, then that magic number no longer matches. So the next time you open it, you'll get a warning. And if it hasn't been changed, then it will show this nice green tick. It says, okay, well, this document is exactly the way it was when the CEO signed it. So our document now looks great. Everything is there. So as a next step, we need to do something that you don't realize how important it is until you haven't used it before. And we just click here the Save button. Notice how there's no questions asked. I don't need to know the path where the file is being saved. I don't need to know anything about SharePoint. I just save the file that I previously opened. Sounds very simple, but very important. So now when we open it again, we can see that all the changes that we have applied, all the additions we have made to the document are now part of the PDF file itself. So the PDF file has the meeting agenda. It says the document is still unchanged and all the information that we appended to it. We now got a fantastic meeting pack, and that meeting pack can then be distributed to the attendees of the meeting. And you can use some other SharePoint facilities like Power Automate to actually pick up that PDF and then send it as an attachment to the recipients of a meeting. So that's all pretty awesome and easy. There's no training required, and it's a common and real-world use case. But as they say, there's more. So as a second demo, we're going to do something with PDF forms. So ever since Microsoft announced the retirement of InfoPath, there's been a big gap in the form filling ecosystem. Sure, there are plenty of pricey third-party solutions, and Microsoft even makes Power Apps available. But those technologies require specialist knowledge, training, lengthy customization projects. It's not something that is for the faint of heart. However, do you know that the most common and generally accepted forms technology is actually PDF? And we have a PDF editor here, and it integrates directly into SharePoint lists and libraries. So let's show how this works. So the use case here is an expense sheet. It's very common to organizations, allows employees to fill out their expenses, submit the receipts, and then get their money back in some way. And here we have automated it. So we have the expense sheet, and let's open it in our fancy PDF editor. So looks very simple, right? So it has a couple of fields here that we can fill out as part of our expense. So let's put in trip to LA, and that was for some kind of seminar. And after that, we actually can enter the amount, which is $699.12, a nice round figure. So, but we also need to make sure that the actual receipt is attached as well. So we can add this image, and we stick in our flight receipt. And it's all nicely visual, so we can actually stick it in here. And we say, okay, whoever is going to process this sees it in place, but it's a little bit small. So we also want to put the full receipt as an extra page. So we use the same import tool that we used before. We say, okay, we'll put this flight receipt at the end and save it. So now whoever gets this form gets a nicely filled out data and also gets the full flight receipt. Now, we save this into SharePoint, but something needs to happen to this form. And what needs to happen depends on the organization, because each form has different fields and each organization has different business processes. So there's nothing that we can do to make a one-size-fits-all, all singing and dancing processor for forms data. That is something you have to automate using a business process automation tool. And a common one is Microsoft Flow. And that's one that most SharePoint Online users are familiar with. And in this case, we've created one that actually takes this document and extracts the field data. Now, the good thing about Power Automate is that you can integrate with all kinds of third-party systems. So the source data, the source form that's been filled out can come from any system. So OneDrive, Salesforce, a website, you name it. So in this case, the file comes from SharePoint. So we extract the data from that, and then the file can go anywhere, or the data can go anywhere. It can go into like a SQL database, it can go into an email, or in this case, it goes into a SharePoint column. So when the file is created, this thing triggers, and then we hit our conversion action. And normally we use that to convert like Word or Excel or AutoCAD or InfoPath files to PDF. But what we do here is we actually convert a PDF to XML. And what it does there is actually it takes the data from these fields and export it into an XML bit. And that's then we can use in our Power Automation to extract data from. So we take the title out, we take the value out, and then we create a file and we update the metadata. So lots of talking, but meanwhile in the background, it's done the work. It saved the file and it submitted it into a subfolder. And you can see here that we created 2 extra columns, one for amount, one for title. And the amount has been populated exactly with the information that we filled out, and the same for the title. So this is a very simple example of how you can automate something like this. In the real world, you'll make a more precise process that is specifically tailored to whatever you're doing in your organization and for your purpose. But that this just illustrates how easy it is. So let me switch back to the presentation. Just bear with me. And go through a couple more points. So we showed how to generate the meeting pack and the form filling. But also it integrates natively with Microsoft Teams. So if you want to display PDF information in Teams for whatever purpose you need it for your channel, then that's just as easy. And similarly, OneDrive also makes it possible to access this viewer. So when you're using OneDrive in the viewer in the web browser and you see a PDF file, you click on it, and then you come into the same editor and viewer that I've just displayed. And by extension, it integrates like anything else with Power Automate. So you can orchestrate your entire business process exactly in the way that works for your organization. And this is very mature technology. It's been in the market for years. It's used by the likes of DocuSign and Dropbox. If you've ever used a PDF viewer editor on a mobile device or on the internet and now in SharePoint, the chance is very high that you've been using this exact technology. And then finally, there's different deployment options to make sure that your documents stay secure and that you can deploy it in different ways. So with that said, are there any questions to answer? So I already see some questions here. I see a question here about the annotations working in parallel. I'm not quite sure what you mean with that. If you can elaborate on that in the chat. So John Morrison asks if we support PDFs that have been exported from vector-based programs such as AutoCAD or MicroStation. So currently we support the conversion of AutoCAD files to PDF. So it's DXF and DWG. Now we have a plugin architecture that allows other formats to be supported as well. MicroStation is one of them. Then another question is to show the watermarking. So there's two kinds of watermarking really here. One is the watermarking that you can do via the user interface, like you could see earlier. I actually added confidential to the page, so that could be considered a watermark. If you want to do apply a watermark as part of opening a file in SharePoint or as part of your business process, then we have that on the side of the Muhimbi PDF converter, which has a very complex and comprehensive watermarking system that can apply text, RTF text, barcodes, QR codes, lines, and images. So between those two functions, you can actually create whatever you want to create. So John Morrison asks how the program handles PDF binders that contain multiple files. I have no answer for you at the moment because it is a combination. The PDF viewer only deals with PDF files. You can deal with PDF binders via the Muhimbi PDF converter and actually extract the attachments and merge them into the main document as a PDF. If you want to get more information about that, we can follow up after this presentation. So Andreas is asking if it's possible for several people to comment on a PDF at the same time. So that is part of the PSPDFKit platform, and my colleague will show that in action a little bit later. It will not initially be available in the first version for SharePoint, but it's definitely on our roadmap because it's a very important question that we get all the time. Finally, Paul Cooper is asking if the PDF and SharePoint integration is available on-premise as well. So the first release will be online and will be followed shortly after by the SharePoint on-premise version because that's not going away. It's a very important part for our customers. So I'm just having a look at the chats, if there's anything there. So now a workflow where you send PDF documents for review. I think there will be PDF editing concurrently. My colleague will show that after my demo. Dan is asking if we can enable the viewer editor on SharePoint 2019. So that's something that I just answered. That's following shortly after the online version. And once it's enabled, if it's universal across all site collections and sites, the way we always work is that we allow you to choose. So we allow by default on all site collections and all web applications, but that's not suitable for everyone. So what you can do is you can then disable it globally and enable it at the web application level or at the site collection level. So you are in full control about where this is available and where it's not available. Another question about SharePoint on-prem. I think we need to clearly accelerate the development on that. Parallel indeed means co-authoring. That's correct. So is the watermarking feature part of your standard application, or is it an additional purchase? So it's available as part of the standard application. So are there any more questions? So an estimated timeline for on-prem support. Let's reach out. Let's talk after this call, so we know exactly what you need, because it will be rolled out in phases, and it depends a bit on what you need. Another good question: where does the file get stored? We don't store the file anywhere. It goes, it's client side. What you're seeing here. So I think for any of the other follow-up questions, we'll take it up after this call. So I'm going to hand you over to Richard, who's going to explain how you can include the same technology in your own web and mobile solutions. And like I said, we will reach out afterwards for any more questions.
Thank you. My name is Richard. I'm part of the sales team here at PSPDFKit, and I'm going to pick up where we left off with a little more of an in-depth view at PSPDFKit and some of the things that we offer here. So if you bear with me, I'll share my screen really quickly. Wonderful. So PSPDFKit provides a PDF SDK that is completely self-hosted. We provide a number of different SDKs based on the platform that you wish to provide PDF rendering and manipulation on. Most of this demo that we've been doing has been looking at our web framework. However, we also offer different SDKs for other operating systems. As you can see, for like native iOS, native Android applications, as well as some hybrid technologies, including React Native and Flutter. What I will be looking at mostly today is our web SDK. Our web SDK becomes in two different integrations. One is a fully client-side integration where all the rendering and manipulation happens in the browser itself. This is a fully self-hosted and serverless integration. Additionally, we also have a server-backed integration that is still self-hosted, but comes with an additional server component that provides different server-side processes. PSPDFKit provides a number of different features that we're just touching today. One of the benefits that we provide in this industry is that we provide a feature-based licensing model. So you're allowed to basically build the workflow that you want, with everything coming on top of our viewer component. And from there, you can add things like annotation markup, form viewing and filling, different signature flows. Our idea is to provide a wider range of functionality so that you're able to essentially work in the industry that you need to. So moving from that, I've got a couple different examples I'd like to go through to kind of showcase some of the functionality. The first thing I'm really going to look at today is our viewer component, and this is being able to render documents and then view them. One of the advantages that PSPDFKit provides is that we're confident that our viewer and the technology that we've built on has seen more PDFs than any viewer on the market. This has different advantages such as fidelity and performance. What we see in terms of viewing and different functionality there's a lot of different use cases. One being often for different publications. So, working with different publications, you can see that we provide different viewing functionality, such as thumbnails, where we can see a better view of the PDF that I'm looking at. We provide a customized view where I can now select which PDF to render and then go from there. One of the key things that we've also done through our time here is ensuring that anything we do with PSPDFKit is also compatible with other viewers in the market, so that if you or your employees or your customers have different PDF viewers on their desktop in their applications, that things like outlines and bookmarks are cross-compatible. So I'm able to pick up an outline from a pre-existing PDF and then navigate through the PDF using the outline. This extends also to being able to create customized bookmarks on, saving certain pages and coming back to certain references. That helps me navigate the PDF. Across this toolbar, you're going to see a lot of different options here. PSPDFKit being a plugin, we try to make it as customizable as possible. We talked a little bit about, different clients such as Dropbox and DocuSign using PSPDFKit. Our goal is to be, behind the scenes. So you can see how we've worked with different use cases, like a magazine use case where we've allowed the user to customize the toolbar and place it down here and only expose certain features that they think are pertinent to their customers. Being able to search within the document and then being able to toggle through those search results is something that we've done. A full screen mode to be able to view the PDF, as well as the core functionalities of being able to bookmark and highlight. Additionally, we've added different page animations to be able to work through the document, much like someone would be used to working with like a magazine or something like that. What we try to do for our developers as well is we expose all these as open source examples, so that once you get started with our SDK, we can get you even closer to kind of what you want to do with the end product. So let's look at a couple different other just basic viewing functionalities for just rendering PDFs and easy way to navigate. So being able to look at a double page mode, how we transition through the document, as well as we all know that when we upload documents, they're not always oriented in the right way. So a lot of different things here just at the viewing level, zooming, snap to page, things like that. And then we look at a couple other ones, such as being able to search within the PDF and finding those. And then, as we showed in the previous demo, we were sharing everything locally to SharePoint. But with this being an SDK, you have the additional ability to export, either locally to the device I'm working on, or even go to the next step of pushing it somewhere else, depending on what you want to offer. Okay, moving from there. We often joke here at PSPDFKit that, if there's an annotation type that we're missing, please let us know, because we're running out of ideas. We've got a number of different things, including, free ink annotations, and then we enable you to use an inspector to then do things such as change the fill of the annotation type, the opacity. So I believe there was a question about watermarking. So it gives me the ability to do this on the user interface to create a watermark behind what I'm looking at, as well as being able to do that programmatically as well. Other things we're looking at is freeform highlighting, as well as, we've got to be able to erase anything we've done with these. Moving from there, a couple other things that we offer natively with our annotation toolkit is being able to add an image on top of the PDF. We also have some additional support for other file types as well. But as we said, we typically convert things to PDF, then to render and manipulate. We can add stamps based on your workflow. We do provide predefined stamps that you can use. We do have customers that you're able to upload and use predefined stamps for your workflow as well. So if you have certain stamps that you need to use based on your workflow, you could upload those and use those. We even provide the ability to create a stamp within our UI as well, which I'm able to do here with a couple different toggles here. So our idea is to provide as much flexibility as we can so you can create the workflow that you need. So moving from there, I can come back, and that's some of our core annotation features. One of the big things that we see in the industry is the growing use of PDF forms. We touched a little bit about, we follow the PDF spec in which we support the rendering and filling and creation of PDF acro form fields. So rendering a PDF with any existing PDF fields, we'll be able to render those correctly and display. You even have the ability to programmatically fill forms from a database as well. So certain things like name, address, social security number, things like that to save time. You could pull that information and map that to specific form fields, as we've done here, that we can see that we fill them out programmatically to save you time. On the other side, when you're done submitting the form, you can send that information specifically to how you want to handle it, even to the point we're doing it in real time. We support a number of different form field types, such as radio buttons, checkboxes, and we went to the point of extending our UI to the point that we work well with different types of formatting, such as dates and things like that. Moving from there, e-signatures have become very prominent in the last 2 years, with people being able to need to sign things remotely. Customers of ours, such as like DocuSign and SignEasy, rely on PSPDFKit's technology to help provide that workflow. So we're able to recognize a form field or programmatically place a form field with PSPDFKit, so that when I click on it, it enables our signing UI intuitively. So I'm able to sign with an ink signature, dragging and dropping an image of my signature and storing that, or typing it as we showed in the last one. And then we try to do that intuitively. And then additionally, then you could go to the point where if you need to apply a digital certificate, we can support the verification and application of that digital certificate to ensure that the document hasn't been tampered with. If it has, our SDK will recognize that and then throw an error that the document has been edited and then the certificate is no longer valid. So we extend that quite a bit. From there, one of the last things I wanted to talk about is something proprietary we've done in the industry, and that's our collaboration and sync engine called PSPDFKit Instant. With the changing workflows and people working remotely, we wanted to tackle the problem of how can people collaborate on the same document and avoid the workflow of having to download, send a document, download it again, work on it on a different device, and always wonder if I'm working with the most up-to-date version. Instant sync and collaboration uses a server-side process that sends changes back to the server that you're hosting, the server technology that you're hosting, of what's happening to that PDF. And what I have in front of me is 2 different instances of PSPDFKit running. So anytime I make a change to the document, anyone with access to this URL here would be able to see these changes happening in real time. So that extends to all our major annotation types, so that as I'm making changes to the document, I'm seeing these changes in real time. We see this used across a lot of different use cases. Workflow and review and approval. We see it in board meetings when everyone's working on the same PDF and you have a presenter. The construction industry, where you might have someone in the field, and there's an individual use case as well, as you jump from the desktop to your mobile devices, and rather having to worry about sending that new version to the next device, it's available for you. But we didn't stop there. Recognizing being a way to intuitively connect, we added a threaded commenting feature to allow customers to really have conversations on documents and work with documents. So as I'm adding this, I'm able to see, we expose some APIs that you can add a user ID so you can see who are making these comments. So this is something that we're really leading the industry in right now, and being able to provide a real-time collaboration and sync workflow with both threaded comments. This would extend to something as, if I'm even altering the document, once I push those changes to the documents, all my users are now notified that this document has been modified. There's offline support, so that if you are offline, as long as the document's stored locally on your device, you'd still be able to edit the document And then once you come back online, those annotations will then be synced back to everyone with access. And as conflict resolution, we use whoever made the last change would be there. And then you ask who made the change. That's where our annotation log comes in, where now I can associate the user ID with these things and kind of understand who made these changes, so that, you know, if you're working with legal red lines or anything like that, that we're able to see those changes persist. So great. So that's been a couple of the different features we offer. As we kind of started with, PSPDFKit is a completely feature-based licensing model, which gives you the flexibility to really dive into, you know, what you want to do when you're working with documents. We can fit your needs now, but also kind of look to the future for different workflows. So I'm just highlighting some of the features we covered to kind of give an idea, but you can see there's much more in terms of, you know, signature support. We do provide redaction, which you can permanently remove sensitive information from the document. And then some additional server-side tools such as OCRing documents, generating documents from HTML, extending that support to images, as well as converting Office documents to PDF. So I will pause there and kind of take a look at the questions. I know Jonathan has been helping out a lot, but if there's something I might be able to do, might be able to show a couple more things. I'll go to the questions and see what we have. I think we might be at a point. So yeah, localization. We work with customers all over the world, so we've definitely spent a lot of time adding different languages that, you know, we're able to not only search within the PDF for different languages, but also customize the UI so that that's intuitive to different companies. Can you share the PDF with the user who can only read the document? So yeah, so we have gone a little bit, and this comes into a use case where it's still built on our instant workflow, where we have added the ability to give certain permissions to people, not only from what they're able to do with the document and being able to only read only or things like that, but also making annotations public and private. So if I'm working on a document and I want my annotations to be, you know, unique to me, I can see that with the lock sign that no one's going to be able to see them as I switch over to maybe the teacher view here. And I can see that annotation hasn't persisted. Whereas if I come back and switch to a public mode, we can see that that's been updated in real time, and now that's been shared. Cool. Read document.
I think you answered most of the questions, Richard. I don't know if there's anything else specifically people would like for you to show. I'm sure you can.
Yeah, if there's any questions, I will also put in the chat my personal scheduling link if anyone wants to set up a call with our team in terms of talking more. If you have follow-up questions, both on the licensing or functionality side, we can also follow up with any questions with our engineering team as well. But we will be sure to send that out after that everyone has access to that. So
yeah, just to wrap up, we're definitely investing in the SharePoint space. This is obviously why we decided to join up with Muhimbi. Are you able to OCR documents that have been generated as a scanned image, as well as PDFs that are generated from a PDF editor? We do have OCR capabilities, just to do text extraction, to be able to make text editable, to be able to make text selectable. And I believe as well, Muhimbi does as well in processing.
So here is a good example of what we've seen with some difficult OCR examples of, let's say your dog got a hold of your documents and you still need to upload it. So we've taken a scan that's been crumbled, but after running it through our OCR engine, you can see that the text is still selectable. And I'm also able to search within the document and find that text. So you can run scan documents through our OCR engine and then be able to do things such as extracting this text even from the underlying annotation, as well as search within PDFs as well after something's been OCR'd.
We're also investing heavily into OCR to even improve the capabilities we have now, because we think this is a future that there's only, it's only going to be in more demand as people look to, kind of bring archival documents into a digital workflow.
Someone asked about watermarking. This is an example of watermarking where we've added this. You can extend this to have both date and timestamps, as well as identifying the user. So if you needed to track who had opened the document, maybe have downloaded and viewed it in another workflow, you could do that as well. But you can both add watermarks both programmatically and from a user interface standpoint.
Awesome. Well, if there isn't any more questions, we can wrap it up. I want to thank Richard, thank Jeroen. Both of those demos were phenomenal. Thank you all for plugging in, tuning in. It's great to have the engagement we did. We'd love to talk to you all more. If we haven't put them in there, I'll put them in there again, both the links to talk to our sales teams. It's very common that we engage with customers, try to figure out their use case, and then try to pair with them to help them solve whatever problem or come up with a solution they're trying to build. So I would definitely encourage you to reach out to us. Do you need to install any browser extension to switch to commenting mode? Right now, no, with PSPDFKit, you don't. You would be in our viewer. You would definitely need the server back deployment variant of our web framework to do that. So it would live in your web-based application. But yeah, we're going to wrap it up there. If you have any more questions, any more, want to talk to us, learn more, please reach out to us. Thank you all for your time and have a great rest of your day. Thank you. Goodbye.